If you have tried intermittent fasting and felt worse, if you've done HIIT 5 days a week and gained weight, if you followed every trending wellness protocol with genuine commitment and come out the other side exhausted, frustrated, and no further along, I need you to hear this. You didn't fail the protocol. The protocol failed your biology. And today we're going to talk about exactly why and what to do instead. This is not an episode about what's bad. It's an episode about what's badly timed. And there is a difference. And knowing that difference is going to change everything about how you're making decisions for your body going forward. Today, we are covering cortisol stacking, why recovery changes in menopause, and the undereating overtraining trap. That's a big one. When fasting actually works and when it backfires, and what your nervous system is telling you when it starts to push back. So that's a lot. Let's dig in. Every stressor the body experiences, physical, emotional, psychological, it triggers a cortisol response. That's normal and healthy in isolation. So cortisol stacking is what happens when multiple stressors layer on top of each other without adequate recovery between them. The cortisol response compounds rather than resolves. So in a perimenopausal body, our baseline cortisol is already elevated from our nervous system dysregulation. Remember that in episode 1? Which means the threshold for tipping into cortisol stacking is significantly lower than it was 10 years ago. A typical cortisol stacking day. Let's go through it. What does that look like? Let's say you get poor sleep, a little cortisol spike. We skip breakfast because we don't have time, another little cortisol spike. Then we get into a HIIT class at lunch, another little cortisol spike. A really stressful day at work, cortisol spike. Restricted dinner, or we're like, I'm just not hungry, I'm not going to eat anything for dinner, cortisol spike. Then can't sleep again, cortisol spike, repeat, spike, spike, spike. Does any of this sound familiar? Each one of those things in isolation might be manageable. Even a couple of those things in isolation might be manageable. But all of those things together, day after day, in a body that's already running hot, that is not what's going to make us have a good wellness routine. That is a cortisol conveyor belt, really, if you think about it. That is why results disappear, even whenever our effort is increasing. So our body is in a chronic state of stress. It's actively resisting the changes we're trying to make, which is why more stress in a stressed body doesn't produce more results. It produces more stress. And more stress often produces exactly what we're trying to fix. So let's talk about recovery, because it is such a key piece here. Recovery is not passive. I want you to remember that. It's an active biological process that requires hormonal support, adequate sleep, me and my sleep, nervous system regulation. So my recovery looks like yoga, meditation, some really calming music, maybe some Beethoven or Mozart, music like that, like in the 402 hertz range. Taking walks outside, just sitting outside in nature. So that hormonal support, that adequate sleep, and our nervous system regulation in perimenopause, those three things under pressure simultaneously means recovery takes longer, and it requires a more deliberate effort and cannot be skipped without consequences, unfortunately. So the same workout that we did, 10 years ago, we could have recovered from in 24 hours, but now it might take 48 to 72 hours to recover from that same exact workout. And that's not because we're less fit. I just want to say that again. It's not because we're less fit. It's because our hormonal recovery environment has changed, okay? So training before full recovery means the next session starts on a deficit. So we're already stacked in that cortisol stacking, and that means we're already in that deficit. And that compounds our fatigue, that compounds our inflammation and our cortisol load rather than building fitness, okay, and building wellness. So let's talk about some signs that maybe you're not recovering adequately, okay? So persistent fatigue that doesn't resolve with rest. And I want you to take some notes here and think about this, maybe even just make a checklist in your head. Increased irritability, declining performance. So maybe the same weight that you were lifting, same things you were doing 6 months ago, a year ago, you can't do those, or they feel extra hard right now. Disrupted sleep after workouts, getting sick more frequently. I see this one a lot. The immune system is tanked. And I want you to know the workout isn't the problem. It's the gap between the workouts. That's the problem. That recovery, we need more recovery. And recovery is not laziness. Okay? Recovery is not laziness, especially in perimenopause, where that's where the actual adaptation happens. That's where we're building really good things in that recovery. This doesn't mean to stop training. That's not what I'm saying. It means to build in the recovery more deliberately as you build training in. So give yourself more rest. Give yourself more recovery. Build in yoga, build in stretching, build in meditation. And here's another key and a piece in that is making sure you're eating appropriately and not overtraining. So how many of you have heard just eat less and move more? Or calories in, calories out. If it's not working, just try harder. Sorry. I know my voice changed because I've heard that so many times, and I've heard so many people come to me and they're like, yeah, everybody just says try harder, you know. And in perimenopause especially, this formula is just ineffective. It doesn't work. Also, if you are struggling with high cortisol in any stage of life, this does not work. It doesn't work. And it's actively counterproductive. So undereating is a physiological stressor. It triggers cortisol, which signals scarcity in our bodies and then promotes muscle breakdown and fat storage as a survival mechanism. It's just how our body is made, and it's made for this for a reason. But overtraining without adequate fuel compounds this. So the body breaks down muscle tissue for energy, worsening that sarcopenia, which means muscle breakdown, remember, that we're already fighting. We're already fighting sarcopenia. And then where does it store fat? Right in the gut, right in that midsection, around our organs, around our heart. And it's so hard on our organs and our heart if we have that extra fat stored there. We talked about that, remember? So the cruel irony here is a lot of people I see are eating less and exercising more than we ever have before. Our bodies are interpreting that as a famine and responding accordingly. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It just wasn't designed for high exercise during this stage of life. And so the protein connection here is we need to make sure that we are getting adequate protein. It's non-negotiable during this stage, non-negotiable. And if you have problems breaking down protein, you can split that up into smaller segments. Or you can take some digestive enzymes, talk to your practitioner about other ways to help with protein digestion if you struggle with that. If you have kidney issues, take these things into consideration, But know that the needle is not going to move if you don't have adequate protein. We need it, not just for muscle building, but for preventing that muscle breakdown that unfortunately undereating and overtraining accelerates. So the answer is almost never eat less food and do more exercise, especially in a perimenopausal body that's under stress. The answer is almost always more nourishment and smarter movement. So I hope this gives you a little bit of encouragement to know, like, you don't have to work so hard and not eat and not enjoy life, okay? Make sure you're building in those moments of rest. So let's talk about fasting, because I know in the under eating category, fasting can come in here. And there are times whenever fasting works, and there's times whenever fasting doesn't work. So fasting is not inherently bad. There are tons of legitimate research supporting the benefits of fasting for metabolic health, for cellular repair, for insulin sensitivity, and those are all in certain populations. Most fasting protocols were researched primarily on men, and the hormonal context was completely different for perimenopausal women. Those two things, one, women were not tested very often, and if they were tested, it was not during a perimenopausal state. That means we have to listen to our own bodies. We have to figure out what's going on and what works for us, okay? So sometimes fasting does work during perimenopause. A shorter eating window, 12 to 14 hours in women who are well nourished, well slept, have lower stress, and are not doing high intensity training. Those women might be able to really benefit from fasting. But fasting backfires whenever we fast over 16 hours a lot of times, especially in women with already elevated levels of cortisol. That can actually worsen that cortisol spike. Remember? So fasting combined with HIIT or heavy training can also create a significant cortisol and energy deficit. And that then can lead to muscle breakdown. So many things. Skipping breakfast, that can disrupt our cortisol rhythm. Cortisol is naturally highest in the morning. It needs food to begin to decline. Fasting through that window keeps it elevated longer. Breakfast is so important for so many bodies. And then women who are already under muscled and under eating, then they're losing muscle mass on those extended fasts, worsening that metabolic picture. So we don't want to lose muscle. We want to gain muscle, especially right now. Remember, muscle is powering our bodies. It's that furnace. It's helping with our movement. It's helping protect our bones. We want the muscle. Give us the muscle. Fasting is a tool like any other tool. It works beautifully in the right hands at the right time. In a perimenopausal body that's already stressed and under-muscled and cortisol loaded, that's often the wrong tool for that moment. Okay? That's what I'm saying. That doesn't mean fasting is off the table forever. It means the conditions need to be right. And you need to know what right looks like, because you need to listen to your body. Okay? So let's go back to talking about our nervous system and what it's telling us, okay? Because again, we have to listen to this. Our perimenopausal nervous system is more sensitive to stress inputs, we've already discussed that, than it was a decade ago. And that's not weakness, that's just information. If we don't have the information, then we can't deal with it, okay? So we just need to know right off the top, our nervous system is sensitive right now. Symptoms that could signal overwhelm to our body are poor sleep, increased anxiety, persistent fatigue, mood crashes after exercise, cravings that spike after training sessions. So kind of look for these signs that your body might be giving you. These aren't signs that we need to push harder. They're signs that our body is asking for a different approach right now, okay? So kind of think about those things. Do you struggle with any of those things? Our nervous system responds to perceived safety. So that means adequate food, adequate sleep, movement that challenges us but doesn't overwhelm our system, and recovery that is built in deliberately, okay? Build in recovery. Your body is not sabotaging you, it is communicating with you. The symptoms you've been fighting are actually a roadmap. And once you learn to read them, you start working against yourself and start working with the most sophisticated system you'll ever own. I mean, our bodies are amazing, you guys. You know this. So now you know more about how your body works in this season than most practitioners who have treated you. Okay? You can listen to your body, and that knowledge is power. It changes every decision you make from here. Okay? I'd like to share just a little story from a friend of mine. She reached out and she was like, oh my gosh, my sweat is stinky, can't get rid of it. Like, what deodorant are you using? And so my immediate reaction, and actually what I said to her was, don't cover it up. Your body's telling you something. Don't cover it up. What is your body telling you? Let's listen. So I sent her some things and I was like, I think, yes, you are in perimenopause, but I know you've been under a lot of stress and I think that you may be having high cortisol. So let's think through this. Maybe do some testing, find out what your cortisol levels are. Are you having enough nutrients? Are you low in vitamin D? We've been given this sign and we have to listen to what's going on. Not that, okay, yeah, she wants to smell better and I get that. But there are so many signs that our bodies give us, like swollen feet, headaches, achiness, the list can go on and on and on. Don't cover those up. Stop taking the ibuprofen all the time. Stop covering up things and start listening to what your body is telling you. Those are all signs. Our bodies are amazing at telling us what's going on. We have to start listening. So I'll jump off of my soapbox now. But here's the bottom line. HIIT and other high intensity workout things are not evil. Fasting is not a scam. It is definitely a really good way to recover from things in our body for a lot of people. Both of them were designed, researched, and popularized in a hormonal context that is not ours right now, okay? So if you've tried them and they didn't work because the timing was wrong, that's okay. You can try it again later. But right now, okay, that's not working for me. And knowing better means every choice you make going forward is informed, intentional, and built for the body you actually have, not for the wellness industry, for what they're trying to sell you, or for the body that they assumed you had, right? Okay, so let's just touch on these really important things one more time. Cortisol stacking. That explains why more effort produces worse results a lot of times. Recovery. It takes longer in perimenopause and we must build it in deliberately. Please build it in. Undereating and overtraining. That is a trap that worsens exactly what you are trying to fix. Fasting works in the right conditions, and you need to listen to your body to know what those conditions are. Your nervous system symptoms are a roadmap. Follow your map. Follow it. If today's episode made you want to audit what you're actually doing, whether it's working for your body right now or not, the Second Half Stronger Starter Guide is a great place to start. It lays out the foundational principles in a clear, practical way so you can build a routine that's exactly designed for this chapter. You can grab it for free in the show notes. And if you feel like a woman in your life who's tried fasting and HIIT and everything else under the sun and blamed herself because it wasn't working, if you would share this with her, she deserves this information just like you do. She deserves it. And next week, we are going deeper into your metabolic health and the insulin conversation that changes how you might think about energy, cravings, and what your body is actually asking for. I'll see you then.